All right. So there's a couple reasons why I'm doing this stream. One of them is for posterity. So that we can look back at how I responded to this situation. Because I'm kind of curious, it's good to compare our reaction to the announcement and our reaction to the actual game. Hold on, let me close the door. Another reason why I'm doing this stream is to have stuff to, well, it's kind of the same reason, honestly, but it's to have live reactions so that the EU5 video that's inevitably coming from this can look back a little bit. So again, posterity, I guess. Paradox made it pretty clear that this is going to be EU5. I don't know. I don't even think that's in question. It's on the Europa Universalis YouTube channel, not the Paradox one. And we've been following Project Caesar for a while, so I think we all know what's coming. But the question is going to be the details. How is it going to be implemented? Are they going to do any branding changes? I have a prediction that the logo's not going to have the rusty metal color that EU3 and EU4 had. Because it's a pain to work with. And I know, because I've tried to do like thumbnails with it and stuff. And I'm staring at the EU3 logo right now because that's actually the music that's playing. I'm also curious, like, what was not in the Tinto talks. And of course, I'll obviously be making an EU5 video. Whoa, music got really loud. How's the sound, by the way? Is it all right? Here we go, 15 minutes left. I don't have that much to say for this initial part. I just wanted to give people time to come in. But I do think that if I had to make one guess, it's that Project Caesar's presentation and, let's say, mechanical design is going to be heavily influenced by the success of Hearts of Iron 4. Like, we've already seen a lot of the mechanics in the Tinto talks, but I don't know. the last couple of Paradox games have not gone as well as they could have. And, in the EU4 video, I talked about how EU4 is a game that's been kind of surviving that kind of decline. So I'll be very curious to see if this is like a CK3 or if this is a Hearts of Iron 4. So it's very interesting how they took this approach of publishing. You see that? Oh, it's gone. Hold on. Publishing their system mechanics in development and getting as much feedback as possible. That's such a new phenomenon, but I think it's going to probably play out positively. The thing with Paradox specifically is that the core fan base of like expert players, let's say, who are most likely to be on the forums, there's a bit of a selection bias to people who are already like experts, and which is fine. But when it comes to like Paradox trying to expand its player base, that maybe is not the people they want to be listening to. So I'm also curious to see if they're going to try to make this game open a new audience or capitalize on their existing audience. See what the chat is saying in here. To be clear, this is not my chat. This is the chat for the stream. All right, they're all making jokes about that the game is going to be March of the Eagles 2 and other funny things. EU4 is better than EU5. Okay. What? Okay, this is kind of just terrible. Let's close that. The chat was a lot cooler 20 minutes ago. I was looking at it. So we've already seen so much of the game. I mean, we've seen the UI, we've seen the combat, we've seen the economy and the cultures and religions. So what have we not seen? That's going to be the interesting part. Also, how much is this game gonna cost? Are we dropping 70 bucks on this? And how soon will it be before they announce a DLC? Are they going to wait till after the game comes out to announce DLC, or is it going to be one of those pre-DLC things? Looking at the last Tinto talk they released yesterday on the combat. Let me pull this in here. It's interesting how they're kind of implementing a bit more of a tactical approach to the combat by having flanks, which I assume you can assign. Yeah, I guess that's what you click here, right? It's something I messed around with when I was tinkering with a grand strategy game idea that I was working on I guess over a year ago. Maybe one day I'll make a video on that. Uh, Getting notifications I don't want to be getting. There we go. One of the most interesting things that came up in Rosenkreuz's video on EU5 and my video on EU4 is like the population. Now we have population numbers and diversity. Like diversity within territories, not, monoculture provinces. I wonder to what extent this is going to be a population management game like Imperator Rome ended up becoming. How long we got? 5 minutes. This quote doesn't make sense to me. Learning. Oh, okay. No, I'm just stupid. What else have they been sharing on here? Tinto flavor. Flavor. I'm a very anti-flavor person. I think it's a distraction, but I understand that people love it, and I don't think it shouldn't be in the game, but it's just sometimes flavor takes the lead, and then you start paying for flavor in DLCs. That's what I don't like. Oh, this is interesting. I don't know if you could tell, but I haven't really been keeping up with Tinto talks. I'd rather just play the game. Because things can always change. Like with EU4, even after the game released, it changed like 1,000 different ways. So I guess you need specific trade goods now. Are you gonna have to manage all of these resources? Maybe that means there'll be fewer abstract resources like, stability and all those kind of numbers that don't mean that much in specific. Maybe stability and those ideas will be just represented through more concrete ideas like, if you don't have any of these resources, then you're poor. Like you don't need to have low development if you have this instead. How are we doing? 2 minutes. Any predictions? Expectations? Hopes? Fears? I think my EU4 video had basically everything I could say on this topic. And then my very short EU5 video. Honestly, I feel like that was kind of rushed. I could have taken more time and thought about those things more, but I didn't want to make specific requests of EU5 because I don't think that's productive, honestly. That's why I kept that video so short. I'm not a game developer. I don't think players dictating what's... Like, it's fine to listen to feedback, but it's not fine to listen to player solutions. Because we're not developers. All right, here we go. We're in the final stretch. Let's see how chat's behaving. -1 stability in chat. It's pretty tame, honestly. Yo, Thrash, what's up? Sorry, I missed your chat. You're here for a historic moment. So I'm going to switch over to the audio, this audio. So let's do that. Here we go. Get rid of chat. Oh.
Hello everyone, I'm Johan Andersson. I'm the studio manager of Paradox Tinto and the creative lead for Project Caesar. We've been teasing you guys about this project for now, and now it's finally time to reveal what this is all about.
I like the personal touch.
With each stroke of the brush, the landscape unfolds. And with every gesture, a path is carved through history.
Man, why do they still do these cinematics? Does it sell the game?
Ambition, once ignited, pushes forward and can never be tamed. from the wells of ancient civilizations, the landscape changes, but the drive remains. Painting with the sharp reds of revolution and the black ash of scorched battlefields. Legacy is forged of the chosen, tracing the silhouettes of warriors. With the final stroke, like fire across the landscape, never before has the canvas stretched so far. Europa Universalis 5.
Oh.
Be ambitious.
Hey, one, I was right. They got rid of the rusty metal on the logo. I love how that's my takeaway from that. EU5 better have beginner-friendly UI. I hate the current one. The problem is, I agree that the UI could do with some improving. The problem is there's too many numbers to manage.
Yo, it's finally happening. How does
Okay,
it
here we
feel?
go.
I don't have words to describe how excited I am about this. This is gonna be so good.
So I'm an EU4 player with 5,000 hours. How different of an experience is this going to be for me?
It's not like playing a new expansion. There's
Oh, thank
we've
God.
tried to change mechanics at every single place. Everything's going to be new. I would say throw away the 5,000 hours, but it's still going to be some things.
So you and the team have been working on this for a very long time. How happy have you been with progress?
Does this bar go to 11?
It can if you want.
Yeah, well,
So very happy.
yeah, I'm super happy. It's like my team is among the best people I've ever worked with. They're been recruiting people a lot from the community and with people with a lot of experience and to be so great. And the amount of history and the amount of mechanics and everything we got into the game is beyond what I dreamed of when we started.
Do you have like a single word in mind to describe the idea behind what you're trying to achieve?
Ambitious, is that a good word? to
Ambitious
use?
is a very good use.
Yeah, I would describe the game as we set out very ambitious, and it's a game where you can do pretty much everything. in the game.
Everything.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter how I want to play it, there's something for me to do.
yeah. It's like if you want to play a Hanseatic trader nation, you can do that, just focusing on trade. Or if you want to relive the Ottoman Empire's expansion as a militaristic country, you can do that. Or if you
That's
just
a
want
good
to
sign.
sit and
That's a
play
good sign. That's
sure,
something I was hoping
small
for.
country,
More
somewhere
diverse play
for
styles.
history, you can do that.
I think we can
So
all
the
get
world
behind that.
itself is something that's alive.
Yeah, I think that's the best description of the game. We're trying to feel like
Oh my god.
a game where it shouldn't feel like a game. It should feel like you actually are the country and playing that country through history and guiding it.
And how important would you say the community has been to the development of this game?
I don't think there's word that can describe how important they are, because part of my team is built from the community.
Why is he wearing sunglasses,
in various ways, like asking
in,
for
like
feedback about the game.
overcast winter?
If there's one thing these 30 years have taught me, is that the community is vital for making a good game. You can't just sit on your own and code something.
Well, Johan, I think I'm ready. Tell me everything there is to know.
How much time do you have?
It's 5,000 hours in EU4, I can spend a little more.
Yeah, well, I brought a bunch of developers that are more knowledgeable about the details of the game than I am, and they're in the castle up here ahead.
Well, let's go find him.
Yes, let's do.
Man, they made a whole thing. I'm gonna have to watch this whole. Alright.
Welcome to Skogkloster Slot. The servant here will take care of your sword for you.
Thank you. So what happens now? Where should I go?
What?
Well, my journey here is over, but in this castle, there's a lot of developers that will give you all the information you need. But you need to take this to Eric. He will know what to do with it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and good luck on your journey.
It's weird because this is like cinematic, but it's definitely just. It was just one take for sure. Oh my god.
Before this castle
It's kind
was
of
built
funny,
in
though.
1654, this was just a remote slice of land, a blank canvas. The man who built this castle had been in dozens of them before, but he thought to himself, I can build one even better. You've loved and you've lived Europa Universalis, but parrots have thought to themselves, we can build one even bigger and even better. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey to discover how they've done just that with Europa Universalis 5.
Real director would cost more money. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine to have that little goofy style, right?
This historical relic on our journey is Dave. Hi, Dave.
Oh, hi Leif. Welcome to the workshop.
It's a great
Chat's
workshop.
being degenerate as usual.
So this room feels like a pretty good metaphor for the start of game development. How do you even begin with a project as ambitious as Europa Universalis 5?
Well, we started 5 years ago by building a new studio in Spain, specifically to make the project. So we hired modders, we hired super fans, we hired the best developers from around the world, specifically to make this project.
So once you've assembled this great team, where do you go from that? What's your first starting point?
It starts with a vision, and that vision came from Johan, and it was, I want to make the grandest strategy game. That includes everything from having, from being the most immersive game we could possibly make, having a living world where everything feels like it's impacting something else.
So you've taken all the buzzwords, gone historically accurate, dynamism, you want immersion.
Yeah, the
How do you
buzzwords.
take
Good catch.
those ideas and put them into a game?
That's a tricky question. Well, one of the things you start with is making concept art, so we can decide how everything looks and feels.
What's the first mechanic that comes to mind? What do you start with?
Pops, which are population groups, groups of people. So,
Wait,
for
what?
example, people of the same culture.
feel like something got
can
cut
band
there.
together into a
We went
single
from
unit,
concept art to mechanics, but
and they can be
yeah,
anything from
population
just
is
one
going to be a
person
big deal.
to 1 million people, one of these units.
So a single person to multiple millions of millions. So we're simulating hundreds of millions at the start of the game.
We're simulating every person who was alive in 1337.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
So the population system is tied into everything that you do. How do I get more of them?
With food production, so the more food you produce, the more surplus you have, which increases your population growth. And then, of course, the reverse is true. If they're starving, you're going to lose a lot of pops.
So we're modeling individuals being born, working, dying. I'm assuming they're also going to stratify throughout society. What does that look like?
Yeah, so each pop has a type, a sort of social class, which could be, of course, nobility, burghers, peasants. They all have different jobs, depending on which class they're in, and they also belong to different estates in your government.
So what's an estate? What do they do?
An estate is a group of pops who have a political agenda. Now, most countries have the nobility, burghers, clergy, and peasants. And basically, they all have...
Yeah,
their own
burgers
privileges
is like
and can take away
city folk,
You can also
burger,
sort them
like
by
burg,
social class.
city.
So, for example,
but it means like the
clergy
bourgeoisie,
are in a different
like
group
the
from nobility.
And that would be the estate system.
property owning
Ties into
peasants
the
is
estate
technically
system,
what they are.
How does the estate system work?
So your pops organize into estates which have their own agenda. They have their own ideas of how they want to run the country.
What if the nobility decide they want something different to me? Can they just go off and do it?
It depends. If you give them the right privileges, you might give them the ability to...
There's a lot of potential in this system. I mean, these are just words, but there's potential. You know how I was saying in the EU4 video that one of the weaknesses is the fact that there's no internal actors. I mean, they added internal actors that seem like they might have some actual power. Let's see. I don't know what he said there. Sorry.
What is a privilege? You mentioned nobility building forts. What does that look like in terms of other privileges, like with the clergy?
So you could, for example, give your burghers control over the coinage. It's all about give and take. You know, you almost never want to give them a privilege, but sometimes it becomes necessary.
So give me a context in which it's necessary. Why would I give out a privilege?
He's like, tell me about the clergy, and then he's talked about the burgers, but that's fine.
He say, we'll only let that if you give us this privilege.
If the inverse happens and their agenda doesn't align with me, I need to either bring them under control or pacify them.
Yes, if you're feeling confident, you can remove privileges from an estate, but you need to be sure that you're in a good position to do that.
So it's a constant balance. I need to make sure that they're happy, but not too powerful that they can...
So, Thresh, They seem to be stealing elements from Crusader Kings and Stellaris. These elements were in EU4 too. I'm just assuming that they're going to be more population based in this um, iteration, but they already existed in EU4 as well.
Well for myself. Well done. Thank you very much. So EU5 stretches from 1337 to 1837. That's 500 years of history. A lot happens in that time period. Talk me through how the game changes to reflect the changes in history.
So we've divided the era into 6 different ages, and inside those ages we have different institutions. So
Oh, they're doing this again, huh?
every slice
Let's
of
see how
the
Eurocentric they are.
feels different from the previous one or the next one. Is much more about medieval fiefdoms and this sort of old order. But by the end of the game, you have the Industrial Revolution. Prices of coal go up. People are using more modern technology.
Let's talk technologies. These more modern technologies you're speaking about. How does the technology system in the game work?
So once you've embraced an institution, that unlocks a brand new technology tree. And players can choose to
Holy
go down
shit.
that list and unlock specific things from that tree.
So you mentioned institutions. What exactly are they?
So an
Those tech
institution
trees are
is
very,
an idea that spreads.
Hearts of Iron.
For example, it could be the Quest
Or
for the New
Victoria.
World, which changes the way that you can explore.
I really like the tech tree being an actual tree. I think that's a good step in the right direction.
Exploration was a big thing during this era. I'm assuming that's also modeled in the game.
Yes.
How does that work?
So once you reach the age of discovery, you might want to start looking over the oceans and to decide to colonize distant lands.
So colonization then, how does that work?
So any country can colonize, and it's a lot easier if you have Quest for the New World institution embraced. But colonization essentially allows you to take unclaimed territory and absorb it into your empire.
So any country can colonize. I don't have to be a specific
Unclaimed
nation.
territory.
Exactly.
I'm just being an ass.
Does gameplay vary from place to place?
The games vary quite a lot depending on which country you choose. You're impacted so much by your setup, what pops you have, what terrain you have, and what neighbors you have, that every playthrough is going to be different if you're playing with France against Flanders.
But I'm not locked in, am I? I can take the starting position of France and go wherever I want with it. I could colonize, I could fight, I could focus on the economy, I could focus on trade.
Exactly. It's not railroaded. You can choose which path you want. So you can take France as a big trading nation, or you could just conquer your neighbors.
So the big takeaway is that it
That's
is
good.
a living world.
Exactly.
But in order to achieve
That seems to go against a lot of EU4's design that's kind of more specialized per country.
Your population influences every decision you take. Your population.
We want to not be railroaded.
Economy is your population, so you have to look after them if you want to lead your country to wealth.
Well, here's to wealth.
To wealth.
Every game needs a solid framework, and EU5 will have just that. The population mechanic will be at the heart of everything that you do, and if you manage it carefully, you will be rewarded with a prosperous realm. Hundreds of millions of people are going to be simulated in a fully dynamic, living world. But what does that actually mean? Let's go to the library to find out.
I think the most important question I have during this announcement is when this is coming out, because I need to take a couple weeks off work and just fucking make the review. Oh man, it's gonna be brutal. It's probably gonna take a few months, honestly. And I'll talk about my other projects I'm doing right now at the end of this video.
This is a library.
That's going to complicate the interview.
Fair enough.
Can you tell me about the living world?
Living world means that things don't come out of nothing.
My guess, Thrash, is that it's coming out
live in the locations which produce the goods.
the final quarter of 2025. So my guess is like September to December, somewhere there.
How do I use them?
Buildings are in locations, and there are many types of buildings that all of them do different things. But in general, they will take resources to maintain and to build, and some of them will produce other types of goods.
Wait, resources to maintain? Oh no.
What would I do with those?
I think we saw that.
All the goods
Whatever.
produced,
Let's just stay here.
those raw resources and refined goods go into the market, and from there they are used to supply the needs of the population and the needs of the buildings.
So, what is a market? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a difficult concept. Imagine you're playing as England, for example. You have a market center in London, and that would attract the locations around it to the London market. Locations will be pooled towards one market or another, depending on the conditions. All the locations belonging to a market will get the resources from that market.
Dynamic trade networks, finally.
I don't have, I can trade for it.
Yes, exactly. If you need some good in your market that you don't have access to, you'll have to make a trade deal between any two markets that you have access to.
Let's say a location is in the market of Scandinavia, let's call it. Is that permanent or can they shift?
Now, markets are completely dynamic.
Wow.
Every location will belong to a market or another market depending on different factors. And markets themselves can be created and destroyed completely freely. Well, freely. They have a cost.
Hell yeah.
So I'm, as
That's
a
what we
player,
want.
can both create and destroy.
This is the best thing I've heard so
You can
far.
create your own market. If you are, for example, if you are playing in Sweden and you don't have a market because you're trading in the market of Lübeck, for example, and you see it more beneficial for you to have a market in Stockholm, you can create a market in Stockholm.
So in this Stockholm market, let's say I wanted something like legumes. How could I get it if it wasn't already in my market?
If you want some good that's not in your market, then you'll have to make a trade deal. A country can make a trade deal between any two markets that they have access to, and that would move the goods from the stockpile of that market to the market you're moving it.
So if I'm Sweden, I can have Danish provinces in my location.
Yes, the goods produced in the Danish locations will be used in your market.
So if I'm buying goods and selling goods, what determines the price of those goods?
Trade deals have a cost based on the distance between the markets.
Okay.
And also depending on the price of the specific good. Each good have a base price, and also it will be modified depending on basically supply and demand between the different markets they are being traded.
This is so interesting.
If a good is very abundant in a market,
this is going to solve,
and if it's
based on what I'm hearing, okay, let's not exaggerate. This would solve every criticism I had of the trade system in EU4.
Gain income from a variety of sources, but the main one is basically taxing your population. However, you won't be able to completely tax all your population because it will depend on the control you have on the locations.
So what's control?
Control
Okay.
is
Control.
an indicative
Makes
of
sense.
basically the amount of power that your country has in a location, and it will irradiate from your capital. You have your cabinet to increase control if you want.
How can I gather more taxes from like a location?
But the main tool that the countries have at their disposal is the cabinet.
That gives me an idea. Thanks, Roger.
Okay, but what is the cabinet?
So Roger has just told us about the living world, dynamic markets, and how to...
Oh, the Pope got elected?
But all I heard was newly conquered territory.
Let me see who it was.
Let's head to the armory.
Oh, they haven't announced the Pope. They just announced that they elected him.
Welcome to the armory.
Thank you. I've been given this map. I think it's finally time we show them.
Let's do that.
Let's see.
This is a map of 1337, but how accurate is it?
Well, Leith, I would say this is the most accurate and granular map we ever made for a grand strategy game.
So you're going to need to take me through this beautiful map here. How important is historical accuracy to something like this?
I'm glad you asked, because basically the map we're starting in 1337, I would say we
This is
made a
Lake.
huge effort
Was this here
making
before?
it as accurate and granular as possible, which that obviously has its
I
challenges.
don't know about that.
For example, in
interesting.
the warfare end of things, since now the diversity geographically wise is huge, so a lot of things can impact the outcome of a war. So basically what we are talking here is that, for example, let's say if you had a military campaign in something around the Caucasus area over here with Armenia and the potential rise of Ottomans and this part of the world, what you would encounter is that is a very steep place with sort of very thin areas to go through, and that obviously you might feel like it's an opportunity, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a trap. It's a huge trap. By
So
that,
Armenia
which
was
I mean
mentioned.
is
Let's look
that
at the
things
chat.
like, let's say, rivers, mountains,
There we go.
straits, those definitely can define the outcome
It's
of
not
a
even that
battle
bad.
and potentially the outcome of a war. So you have to be very careful with how you treat your movement of troops in the map.
So before we even get to war, what
That
kind of
sounds good.
preparations
Sounds
do I
like a
need
good
to
thing.
make to supply my armies?
I would say, first of all, that going into a war is not easy at all. And yeah, you can be challenged in case they declare to you if you are not prepared. In case you are the one that wants to be the aggressor, I would say that the first thing to consider is building a war chest. That would be for starters. But also you have to be very careful with the production game loop of things. Because at starting date, basically you rely a lot into raising levies. And those levies come from population. And the thing is that this population is the one that's responsible for the outcome of your buildings. So what I'm saying here is that when you start a campaign in 1337 and you raise all your levies, you're making your buildings empty, part of them.
See.
So you have to choose between economic output of your manpower or military output of your manpower.
My army gets
That's
wiped
very
out.
interesting.
I'm also wiping out all of my populations at home, so there's no one to work in the fields and all the buildings.
Yeah, that is correct.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about military objectives, what are some of those military objectives? Can I tell an army to go siege? Can I tell an army to go engage other armies? How does that work?
Definitely. Like for starters, there would be one of the most used, I assume, is going to be the carpet siege, which basically is the one that allows you to make a lot of your armies go straight towards the forts of your enemy. So you don't need to be micromanaging on that regard. And that obviously
Interesting.
has its pros and its cons. Like, let's say you are too lightly on these tools and you use them a bit too much, maybe you are not defending your own country, because there is a military objective to defend your own lands or to call everyone back to defend.
I think
But
this
if you are
is
just
heavily
using
inspired by
it
Hearts of Iron
in
4, and I
an
think that's a
aggressive
good
way,
thing
it's
because
probably
it kind of strikes a good balance of automated
So let's say
orders and like
an
micromanaging.
Englishman,
Yes.
and I want to press my rightful claim on the throne of France. Can I use my superior navy and sailing ability?
Definitely, definitely, 100%. Like navies in EU5 are meant to be, first of all, for movement of troops. That is a huge thing that helps the troops to move around, but also it supplies nearby armies. So that would be something to take into account.
Supply.
I would also add to this that if you, as an Englishman, start, let's say you go with another one, and you go here, and you start going deep into French territory, thanks to your navies, basically, what you would get is that a lot of the locations in France, when you occupy them, you can basically get their food.
So I can live off the land in France.
Yes,
Ideally.
that's the thing. And also, like, it goes both ways, because you get the food of the enemy, and that means the enemy doesn't get that food. So that is pretty good for your outcome.
So you mentioned that wars are won and lost
That
according
sounds
to your economy
very
if you're out too long.
interesting.
How do I win a battle?
Winning a battle can be decided by a lot of factors. First of all, as the most usual one, if you have the biggest army, You probably will win, but the thing is that this game doesn't assure you that.
So the different factors are size of the army,
Yes.
professionalism of the army,
Yes.
the general, the terrain,
Yes.
and beyond.
Yeah, I would say supplying your army with food. If an army has low morale due to low food supply, then it's another factor to consider. An
So if
army,
they're starving
Yeah.
to death, they can't fight.
basically that.
So what
I'm
are
hearing a
the-
lot of emergent systems of logistics and like resource management. That sounds amazing. In theory.
The enemy will be super happy about it. So, but yeah, in order to supply your army, you would have to consider, first of all, supply depots. That's something you have to get from locations in order to, especially if your campaign is long and you are very deep into the enemy land. And there's some countries here that I would say are huge in terms of territory. Let's say you start as Morocco and you want to invade Castile. So the more you get into the specific territory, the more you might be punished unless you prepare fine with it.
So if I'm Tunisian and I
Yes.
want to invade Castile,
Yes.
the deeper I go, the more I need to consider supply because I could be cut off.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But not only that, because if you don't make sure that your own country is safe in terms of occupations, then you could face another problem, which is that your enemy cuts down your supply. And that would mean that at the end, you wouldn't get that much needed food.
Let's say I have a
This hopefully will
They're going to
kind
war.
of
Am I able to
make the siege racing a little bit less
beat my opponent?
gimmicky
Take their
and a
resources?
little more strategically involved. So that's a good thing.
There's a lot of opportunities. For once, the map we have in this game allows you to browse very carefully which enemy locations might be producing from the land the goods that are meant to supply their units. So I guess a smart choice, let's, for example, choose the Golden Horde. So Golden Horde relies heavily on horses, as we all know. So if you detect the places that have horses in it and you are quick enough to occupy those, you're basically decreasing their chances to fill up their ranks once they have some losses. And that would benefit you a lot. That also would include other types of factors like, let's say, if you are occupying a location that is meant to be a huge food supply for your enemy, then you are doing a very good strategy because you are cutting them down as well. Actually, the magic of this granularity, that it allows you to, if that country is facing other wars, or if that country is just having an internal problem with the managing of their supplies, then you have an opportunity there. So yeah,
Wow.
I would say that if you are using a small country, you're playing a small country, you might have a chance to succeed.
So it's less about the size of the dog in the fight and more about how much food is in his food bowl.
Yeah, that I would say that. Yes.
Nice.
There's many ways to
He was proud of that one.
punish your enemy. Another good option, obviously, but that even comes from EU4 times, although in this case I would say it's harder, would be to occupy the capital. When you occupy the capital of the enemy, basically you are,
The victor.
yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for all that fantastic information, but I have just one more question for you. How many princes are there in the HRE?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Eric?
oh no. We're not going to get an answer on that.
So Eric left.
I mean, I
before
think
could
we
get
saw
all
the
answers that I
HRE
wanted,
map,
but
right,
fortunately, I know
in the
somewhere
Tinto
else that I
talks.
can seek guidance.
It's very interesting that they chose to just do these interview style instead of like showing us the mechanics. It suggests that maybe they're not finalized on the UI yet and they don't want to kind of, well, we'll see. We'll see. That's what I'm hearing so far though.
Forgive me, random church bench dev, for I have sinned.
What?
I have a question about faith.
DLC? Oh no.
No, about faiths in the game.
Oh, well, that I can help you with. We do have around 300 faiths in the game. There's, for example, Catholicism, there's Buddhism, there's Zoroastrianism, there's Shintoism, and plenty of faiths.
And do they have their own unique mechanics?
Yes, everyone has own unique set of mechanics that they can interact and play with.
And I'm assuming all these different pops have varieties of different faiths.
Yes, each pop will belong to a specific faith. And in your country, there could be pops of many diverse faiths that you will have to interact with. And they could be perfectly happy, but they could also be unhappy when their different faith could become a problem for you.
So if there's a pop that has the same faith as me, they're perfectly happy.
Not necessarily. They can be perfectly unhappy while sharing your own faith.
Great.
You will have a lot of minorities, both of culture and of faith in your country at all times, mostly. And what you can do about them is, well, you can convert and assimilate them, or you could tolerate and accept those cultures and those faiths.
You mentioned that I can tolerate them. Does that mean that I can have a fully tolerant society, tolerating all minorities?
Yes, if you're particularly humanist, that's definitely a goal to strive towards.
So you're saying, what does that mean? How does one become humanist?
Well, humanism is a societal value in the game, which is opposed to spiritualism. And spiritualist countries would have it, for example, easier to convert and assimilate. And it's one of dozens of societal values that we have in the game.
So you can't take humanist and religious ideas, for example,
more innovative
at the same time.
Or you could be more traditionalist. Or you could focus your army, for example, on quantity or on quality. But you can't do both.
Can you give me an example of a major situation that would impact my societal values?
Well, there is one which will come fairly early on in the game, which is the Black Death, which will happen around like 10, 15 years after the game starts and will affect a majority of the globe.
What can I do to lessen the impact of the Black Death?
Well, you can try different things. You can try to build hospitals, you can maybe establish a quarantine.
This is the new theme song coming.
Well, I hope you find solace in faith. Good luck.
Oh no, guess not.
Our tour today is at an end, but it's just the start of our grandest journey yet. We'll find out whether your reign will be known as a glorious golden age or for carnage and chaos. Will you carve your name into history or be a mere footnote in someone else's chapter? In Europa Universalis 5, anything is possible. History is yours to write. One final piece of advice. Be ambitious.
Can we look at the game? Or no? Where's the date? Where's the date? Oh my god, it's over, isn't it? What is this? Ah, okay. Wow. Okay. So they're not going to show it. They're just going to... They have a list of creators that did an EU5. All right, they got Flurry Worry. They got the Playmaker. They got all these... all the usual suspects. Let's see. All right. No date. No date. How is this possible? Oh, wish list? What is this? No date. This can't be real, man. How are you not going to give a date? Coming soon. All right. That's fine. Well, I thought we'd have more to discuss, to be honest. But okay, the Steam page is up. That's something. Wow, this UI. All right, Thrash, what do you think of the UI? Better or worse for you? Oh man. This is definitely more information than U4. Looks a lot like Civ. I think it's because it's colorful. And U4 is not colorful enough in its UI. Map looks interesting, like graphically. We got the events, we got the usual stuff pop. I'm guessing legitimacy, prestige, diplomatic reputation. Don't know what this is. Court, something maybe. Money, stability. Oh, they took the Imperator stability, where it's like a floating number. Oh, there's natural disasters. I forgot about that. That's gonna be interesting. Um, looks a lot like Imperator graphically, but I guess this is just the style they've been going with lately, and I think that's probably good. Or like Victoria or whatever. I think even CK3 looks like this, right? Oh, let me play some music. Sorry. Here we go. The depth and color is what we needed. Yeah, you got to remember, like, U4 was developed 15 years ago. So there was no, this was not an option. All right, so what am I most excited about? Let's get like a paint. I think that, hold on. How do I do paint? You see this? Yeah. Good. Bad. Let's do this real quick. All right, first impressions. I think that the trade is good. Dynamic trade. That seems very, very interesting to me. Supply lines and logistics. The ugly. Oh yeah. Well, I'll add that in a minute. These things look really cool. We didn't get to see it, although maybe it's in a Tinto talk that I didn't read. What else was stood out? Honestly, populations I'm pretty neutral on. How about the fact that it's not development? That's a good thing. Because like sure they're quote unquote simulating like millions of people, but I can just open up Excel and type 1 million in a cell and say I'm simulating. You know what I mean? Like we need to see the actual gameplay results of that. What else? I don't want to look at any of these early access videos on the stream because they're actually from creators, right? So I guess they were allowed to do up to 30 minutes of gameplay. That was their maximum. But I'm sure everyone's going to go look at those. What else? Bad? I don't know if there's bad that I saw. It's more like unsure. Because I'm not going to pretend we know. But I think that it's unclear to me how the, you know how you can only pick quality or quantity in these like rigid choices that are on like a spectrum. I'm not sure how that's going to be, how that's going to go. That could either be really cool or just kind of arbitrary. Like intuitively, you'd think, okay, yeah, you can only have quality or quantity, but I just realized you can't hear the music, can you? There we go. Quest system. So in EU4, the quest, quote unquote, quest system, first they had missions that were like literally quests, and then they had the mission trees to kind of like inspire you to do stuff. And I'm not sure what the answer is for EU5. I think I don't care if there's a quest system of any kind, because I think that the goals could be emergent. You know, like if you have a trade network and hold on. If you have like a trade network and your goal is to like expand over here, you don't need a quest to do that. You could just intuitively be like, okay, I want to do that. So I'd rather see this kind of gameplay where your goals are emergent. At the same time, I know that the missions and quests and things like that provide flavor. Maybe we should have a neutral category here. Boy. Let's see if I can... there we go. The neutral. So, like, you know, it makes people feel immersed. Oh my god, that's just unreadable. And I understand that, right? I understand there's an immersion. And it's also good for new players to, like, have incentives to do things. So maybe that could be a really good tutorial tool. The only downside to it, honestly, I don't mind it. The downside to questing and the game giving you specific goals is when those goals are overpowered in their rewards. That's the problem I have. And we haven't heard anything like that. Obviously, because they wouldn't say that, right? I'm kind of disappointed that there's no date. Let's go on their Twitter. I mean, really, no date. All right, I guess it is what it is. Kind of anticlimactic. I thought we'd have more to talk about, honestly. But it's all right. What else? Let me just fill this out. What else do we have here? I'm unsure. Religion sounded fine. It sounded the same. I guess we put it here, religion. What else sounded fine? Navies. Yeah, I think something that was cool was like that the navies do the supply lines. That's really cool. I don't know. That's all I got. Thank you to everyone for stopping by. It's just kind of lame this is the end, but I guess it is what it is, huh? I will definitely be covering EU5, so you can just know that. Probably make a longer video than I did on EU4, since I learned a lot about the production process through that. And probably, if they haven't even announced the date, hopefully I'll have some time to do a couple major videos before this comes out. So I still have Civ 5 on the horizon. I'm about halfway done with that, so hopefully that comes out soon, and then we get EU5 going. All right, people. Thanks for coming in. I'm gonna go watch one of these creator first impression videos. Peace out.